This is the tale of an elderly man who had a difficult life. With the death of his wife and the sale of his home by his children, he was left to face his own fate alone and without support or protection. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. The elderly man started to wander about the streets by himself, sleeping there and gathering food scraps from the tiny trash cans. The elderly man went by Salvador. He was liked by the other residents of the block and had a nice heart, despite his mental health issues. Salvador was once discovered dozing off in the street. The cops were pursuing some crooks who had dumped their looted goods where the elderly man was sleeping. When the shocked elderly man opened the briefcase, he expected to find food, but what he saw was all the money that the thieves had taken. The crooks had thrown it where the old guy was in their rush to escape being caught. When the police arrived, they observed Salvador joyfully collecting all of the money he had discovered. And cop uttered, "Old man, go away. Raise your hands. I take it that you helped those crooks out? You're heading straight to prison now." Startled, the elderly man said to them, "I assumed it was food. I took no action." The elderly man was taken into custody by the police with tears in his eyes, allegedly helping the thieves who had made off with the remaining cash. Without any fault of his own, a few police officers made fun of the elderly man by asking, "Will you spend your last years here, old thief?" With a dejected expression, the elderly guy merely answered, "I accomplished nothing. I mistook it for food. I'm famished." "You're going to stay here until you say where your accomplices are," the cops replied. The elderly guy, resigned to his fate, was left alone in prison for 2 years. Some of his fellow inmates made fun of him, saying things like, "What happened, old man? What brings you here?" "My name is Salvador, and I want to be friends with you," the elderly man retorted. When they noticed that the elderly man swept, assisted, and avoided interfering with anyone, some other inmates started to lend a hand. It was fall and cold in the jail, so they offered him food, and some even gave him blankets. When the new prison director, a stern and serious guy, looked over Salvador's case 2 weeks later, he was struck that the elderly man was still behind bars despite having no proof to support his incarceration. He brought Salvador into his office the following day and declared, "Salvador, you are free." Salvador answered, "Mr. Director, I don't want to leave here. I am alone on the streets." Astonished, the jail director remarked, "Mr. Salvador, you remember me, don't you? Carlos, one of your boys, and I studied together." In response, the dejected old guy said, "Sir, my kids don't love me. They left me behind." The director made the decision to find out the old man's previous residence before letting him go. He learned that, aside from a generous neighbor who used to assist him, Salvador had lost all of his family. Salvador was devastated to learn he had no one after he was freed from prison. But as he was leaving, he was taken aback to see his old buddy, a widow living alone. She gave Salvador a strong hug when she saw him. The elderly man initially forgot who she was as he just stared at her. The woman introduced herself as your longtime neighbor. Salvador responded, "I have nowhere to go, which is why I didn't want to leave," after briefly recalling her. After being moved by his tale, the woman invited Salvador inside her house and gave him a tiny room to sleep in. The director of the prison made an effort to get in touch with Salvador. However, she was unable. The director looked for Salvador since he remembered that he had a neighbor. He was shocked to see Salvador residing at the woman's home when he knocked on the door. "Hello, Salvador. Do you remember me?" the director asked. However, the old man's memory was impaired by his wife's passing and the desertion of his children, so he was unable to recall much. "How can I help you?" inquired the neighbor as he stepped outside. "You know that Salvador spent more than 2 years in prison," the prison director clarified. "He was made fun of at first, but he gained a lot of friends due to his generosity. When he died in prison, a billionaire friend of Salvador's, who had no family, bequeathed Salvador his whole fortune. You young man, what will Salvador do with so much money, given that he's not well? The surprised woman asked. Don't worry, the director comforted her. Carlos, Salvador's eldest son, has already been notified of the bequest left to his father by me. Young director, they abandoned Salvador a long time ago, the woman said to him. He was cast out onto the street by them. Salvador's emotional issues prevent him from developing normally, which is why. The director was taken aback by what was occurring, and Carlos showed up 2 hours later. Presuming to be his father, Salvador went to the neighbor's house and exclaimed, "Dad, I finally found you. I love you. Return with me." Carlos, his oldest son, was sent because his father inherited a lot of money. Salvador told Carlos, "You and your brothers abandoned me at that moment. You want to see me after all I went through just because I inherited money from my jailed friend?" With a hint of astonishment, Carlos answered, "No, not at all, Dad. I cherish you. Come live with me, and we'll gather that inheritance to live comfortably together." Salvador informed the neighbor, "I will stay here at that point. I will not be leaving. I'm going to contribute a portion of that money to the underprivileged, not to my son. I'm sorry, but I can't accompany you. Sincerely, I'll put your money to good use for those in need. I'm improving little by little under the care of this woman I live with. You came hunting for me because you knew I would inherit that money, regardless of everything that happened to me. I'm sorry, but I'm not accompanying you." Salvador gave a very direct and harsh reaction. "Keep in mind that throwing your mother or father out on the street says a lot about you as a person," Salvador added, observing his son's intentions. "You are not going to succeed in life. As a result, cherish life, the people in your immediate vicinity, and most importantly, your parents. And if you do that, your prize from above won't take long to arrive." Friends, there is no doubt that this is a tale worth thinking about. Don't wait for bad things to happen to us. Act now, to help us understand everything that is going on, and to give us time to make corrections or prevent many things that could endanger our lives. Let's examine some examples and things that have happened to other people. We really hope you enjoy this tale. See you in our upcoming video. I appreciate you seeing. Would you kindly like and post the video to social media? We'll respond to you as soon as we can. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.